I was carrying a tray of champagne flutes through my parents' crowded backyard when my mother's voice cut through the laughter like a knife. Emma, Bella needs you to touch up her makeup before the photographer gets here. And make sure you fix her hair extensions too. She gestured dismissively toward my sister, who was posing by the pool in her designer birthday dress, surrounded by her influencer friends and her finance boyfriend Brandon. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The party guests turned to watch as I stood there, frozen with the tray in my hands, wearing the black polo shirt my mother had specifically requested. I wear so I'd look like hired help rather than family. Bella smirked and handed me her empty glass without even looking at me. Oh, and I spilled something on my shoes. Can you clean those too? I can't have dirty Louboutins in my birthday photos. The humiliation burned through me like acid. But what happened next changed everything. Brandon, Bella's pretentious boyfriend, chuckled and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "It's nice that your family keeps good help, very convenient." My parents laughed along with the crowd, and my father actually nodded approvingly, as if having their own daughter treated like a servant was some kind of achievement. That moment shattered something inside me, but it wasn't my spirit. It was the last chain holding me to their twisted version of family loyalty. I set down the tray, looked directly at Bella's perfectly contoured face, and smiled, not the broken smile of someone accepting defeat, but the dangerous smile of someone who'd just figured out exactly how to destroy everything these people valued most. My name is Emma Rodriguez, and at 27 years old, I've learned that the cruelest cuts often come from the people who are supposed to love you most. Growing up in a Mexican-American family in Phoenix, I thought familia meant everything. I was wrong. Sometimes family means being invisible in your own home while your younger sister gets worshipped like a golden idol. The inequality started early. While Bella got dance lessons and beauty pageant training, I got library cards and hand-me-down clothes. When she struggled with basic math, my parents hired expensive tutors. When I earned straight A's in advanced placement courses, they barely glanced up from admiring Bella's latest school photo. My mother, Patricia, would spend hours teaching Bella how to apply makeup and style her hair, while telling me I should focus on more practical things, since I wasn't naturally blessed with Bella's looks. My father, Michael, wasn't much better. He ran Rodriguez Custom Landscaping, a successful business that allowed us to live comfortably in Tempe. But he dreamed of something more prestigious for his family. When Bella started dating guys with money, he practically glowed with pride. When I brought home academic awards or talked about my data analytics projects, his eyes would glaze over with boredom. "That's nice, Misha," he'd say, already turning his attention back to whatever Bella was showing him on her phone. The favoritism became impossible to ignore during my college years at Arizona State University. While I worked 2 part-time jobs to help pay for my education in data analytics, my parents freely funded Bella's communications degree, her sorority fees, her spring break trips, and her endless shopping sprees. They justified it by saying Bella needed to look good for her future, while I was smart enough to figure things out on my own. The message was clear: intelligence was expected from me, but beauty was rewarded in her. I found refuge in my friendship with Maya Chen, my college roommate who became the sister I never had. Maya saw through my family's toxic dynamics immediately. During visits to my parents' house, she'd watch in disbelief as I was expected to clean up after Bella's friends, while Bella lounged by the pool, posing for Instagram photos. "This isn't normal, Emma," Maya would tell me repeatedly. "You're not their maid, and you're sure as hell not Bella's servant." But breaking free from ingrained family patterns proved harder than Maya made it sound. Every time I tried to assert myself or refused to cater to Bella's demands, my mother would guilt me with speeches about family loyalty and helping your sister succeed. My father would remind me that Bella wasn't as naturally gifted as I was, so it was my responsibility to support her however I could. They made me feel selfish for wanting basic respect and recognition. After graduation, I moved to a small apartment in downtown Phoenix's Roosevelt Row, determined to build my own life away from their dysfunction. I landed a job with a mid-sized marketing firm, where my data analytics skills quickly proved invaluable. I could identify viral content patterns, optimize social media algorithms, and predict trending topics with an accuracy that impressed even seasoned marketers. My insights helped increase client engagement rates by an average of 40%, yet my boss consistently passed me over for promotions in favor of colleagues with better networking skills, but inferior analytical abilities. Meanwhile, Bella's Instagram influencer career was gaining modest traction. She had accumulated nearly 50,000 followers by posting lifestyle content, makeup tutorials, and carefully curated shots of her relationship with Brandon Walsh, a finance guy she'd met at a Scottsdale nightclub. My parents treated her social media success like she'd won a Nobel Prize, constantly bragging to neighbors and family friends about their daughter, the influencer who was dating such a successful young man. The irony wasn't lost on me that Bella's entire career depended on the same digital marketing principles I worked with professionally, yet my expertise was dismissed while her amateur content creation was celebrated. When I offered to help optimize her posting schedule or improve her hashtag strategy, Bella would roll her eyes and tell me she didn't need advice from someone who didn't understand creativity. She preferred to learn from other influencers or expensive online courses that my parents eagerly funded. As Bella's follower count grew, so did my parents' investment in her image. They upgraded from their modest Tempe home to an impressive 4-bedroom house with a pool in North Scottsdale, specifically so Bella would have better backdrops for her content and could host the kind of parties that would attract more influential friends. They also helped her rent a luxury apartment in Old Town Scottsdale, reasoning that her address needed to match the lifestyle brand she was building. During this time, I was struggling to make rent on my downtown Phoenix apartment while trying to save money to start my own consulting business. Dr. Amanda Foster, my former professor who had become a successful business consultant, encouraged me to leverage my analytical skills independently.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Rather than remaining undervalued at traditional firms. She saw potential in my ability to decode social media algorithms and predict content performance, but starting a consulting practice required capital I didn't have. My requests for family financial support were met with lectures about fiscal responsibility and the importance of living within my means. The same parents who freely funded Bella's lifestyle and business ventures told me that asking for help showed a lack of initiative. They couldn't understand why I needed money to start a business when I already had a steady job, completely missing the point that my current position offered no growth potential and severely undercompensated my contributions. The breaking point came when my parents announced they were throwing Bella an elaborate 24th birthday party at their new Scottsdale home. The guest list included extended family friends, Bella's influencer circle, and Brandon's colleagues from his investment firm. They hired a professional photographer, a bartender, and catering services, sparing no expense to create the perfect backdrop for Bella's birthday content. When my mother called to inform me about the party, she made it clear that my role would be purely functional. "We need you to help coordinate things and make sure everything runs smoothly," she explained, using the same tone she might use to hire temporary staff. "Bella will be busy with her guests and the photographer, so we'll need you to handle the logistics." I initially assumed this meant typical family event responsibilities like greeting guests or helping serve food. I had no idea that my parents had crafted an elaborate plan to use me as literal hired help while positioning Bella as the princess of her own fairy tale celebration. The black polo shirt directive should have been my first warning, but I was still naive enough to believe my parents wouldn't deliberately humiliate me in front of dozens of people. The morning of the party, I arrived at their Scottsdale house to find my mother arranging flowers while Bella got her hair and makeup professionally done in her old bedroom. The transformation of their backyard was impressive. String lights created a magical canopy over the pool area, elegant table settings dotted the patio, and a professional bar setup anchored one corner of the space. Everything looked perfect for the kind of content that would generate thousands of likes and comments. My mother handed me a detailed list of tasks that read like instructions for hired help rather than requests for family assistance. I was expected to greet guests and direct them to the gift table, ensure the bartender never ran out of supplies, coordinate with the photographer for group shots, manage the music playlist, and continuously circulate with trays of appetizers and drinks. Meanwhile, Bella's only responsibility was to look beautiful and pose for photos. As guests began arriving, the dynamic became painfully obvious. Bella held court by the pool, accepting birthday wishes and compliments on her outfit while I moved through the crowd with serving trays, practically invisible except when someone needed their drink refreshed. Brandon's finance colleagues, a group of arrogant 20-somethings in expensive suits, treated me exactly like hired help, snapping their fingers to get my attention and making jokes about the service quality. The photographer captured dozens of images of Bella laughing with friends, embracing family members, and posing with Brandon, but I appeared in the background of shots only as a blurry figure carrying trays or cleaning up spills. My parents beamed with pride as they watched Bella work the crowd, accepting praise for raising such a beautiful and successful daughter. When relatives asked about me, they gave vague responses about my computer job before quickly redirecting attention back to Bella's influencer career. Maya arrived midway through the party, having driven down from her job in Scottsdale to support me. She took one look at the scene, and her face darkened with anger. "What the hell is happening here?" she whispered as I handed her a glass of wine. "Why are you dressed like staff at your own sister's party?" I tried to downplay the situation, making excuses about family traditions and helping out, but Maya wasn't buying it. She watched my parents fawn over Bella, while completely ignoring my contributions to the party's success, and I could see her getting more furious by the minute. When my mother approached and asked Maya if she was enjoying the party, Maya's response was diplomatically cold. "It's very illuminating," she said, her tone making my mother uncomfortable enough to quickly excuse herself. The evening reached its peak of humiliation during the gift opening ceremony. Bella sat in a decorated chair while guests gathered around to watch her unwrap presents, each reveal accompanied by squeals of delight and poses for the photographer. The gifts were impressive: designer handbags, expensive jewelry, gift cards to luxury stores, and even a weekend spa retreat from Brandon. My parents presented her with a professional camera and lighting setup to enhance her content creation, a gift that probably cost more than my monthly salary. When Bella finished opening presents, she stood to give a speech, thanking everyone for making her birthday so special. She mentioned her parents' incredible support, Brandon's love and encouragement, and her amazing friends who always believed in her dreams. She thanked the photographer for capturing such beautiful memories, and even acknowledged the catering staff for their excellent service. She managed to thank hired strangers while completely ignoring the family member who had spent the entire evening ensuring her party ran flawlessly. The final insult came as guests were preparing to leave. Bella approached me with a sticky wine glass and a condescending smile, asking me to clean it before putting it away because she couldn't bear to see expensive crystal get ruined. As I took the glass, she patted my shoulder like I was a well-trained pet and said, "Thanks for everything tonight, Em. You're so good at this stuff." Brandon, overhearing the exchange, made his comment about the quality of our family's help, and the laughter that followed felt like a slap across my face, but instead of breaking me, that laughter ignited something dangerous. I realized that my entire family had become so invested in Bella's image that they'd lost sight of basic human decency. They'd turned me into a prop in her Instagram perfect life, and they expected me to be grateful for the privilege. Standing in that backyard, surrounded by people who'd watched me be degraded without protest, I made a decision that would change everything. I wouldn't just leave their toxic dynamic behind, I would use every skill I'd developed, every connection I'd made, and every piece of knowledge I'd accumulated to show them exactly what they'd underestimated. Bella's influencer career depended on algorithms and engagement patterns that I understood better than anyone. My parents' pride rested on their daughter's social media success and their perception of moving up in social status. I was about to teach them all a lesson about the difference between genuine achievement and carefully constructed illusion. They wanted to treat me like hired help. Fine, but they were about to discover that the help they'd dismissed was far more powerful than the star they'd created. The real party was just beginning, and this time, I'd be the one controlling the guest list. Part 2. The Transformation Declaration. The drive back to my Roosevelt Row apartment that night felt different. Every red light, every turn down familiar Phoenix streets carried the weight of a decision that had crystallized in my mind like desert sand turning to glass under intense heat. I wasn't just angry anymore. Anger was a luxury I'd indulged in for too many years, while nothing changed. What I felt now was something far more dangerous. Absolute clarity about what needed to happen next. I pulled into my apartment complex and sat in my car for several minutes, watching the late-night foot traffic of downtown Phoenix move past my windshield. Young professionals heading home from bars, artists carrying portfolios from gallery openings, entrepreneurs talking animatedly about their latest ventures. This was my world, filled with people who valued innovation and intelligence over appearances and social connections. Yet somehow, I'd allowed my family's backward priorities to make me feel small and insignificant. Maya was waiting in my living room when I finally made it upstairs, having used the spare key I'd given her months ago. She'd changed out of her party clothes into comfortable jeans and a t-shirt, and her expression told me she'd been rehearsing a speech during the hour it took me to drive home from Scottsdale. But when she saw my face, whatever lecture she'd planned seemed to evaporate. "You look different," she said carefully, studying my expression in the lamplight. Like something fundamental just shifted. I set my purse down and walked to the window overlooking the street below. The view from my apartment wasn't much, just a slice of urban Phoenix, with its mix of renovated warehouses and modern condos, but it represented something my family had never understood. Independence earned through my own efforts, space that belonged to me because I'd worked for it, a life built on merit rather than manipulation. "They think they broke me tonight," I said, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. "My parents actually believe that humiliating me in front of 50 people somehow puts me in my place. Bella thinks treating me like hired help proves she's the success story they always wanted." Maya joined me at the window, her reflection overlapping with mine in the glass. "But they didn't break you." "No. They freed me." I turned to face her, and I could see my own transformation reflected in her widening eyes. "I've been playing by their rules for 27 years, Maya. Trying to earn love that was never going to be given freely, seeking approval from people who decided my worth before I could even walk. Tonight showed me exactly how pointless that's been." The realization had been building throughout the evening, but it crystallized during that moment when Brandon made his comment about good help and my parents laughed along. They weren't just ignorant or misguided. They were actively participating in my degradation because it served their vision of family hierarchy. My intelligence threatened the narrative they'd constructed about Bella being their shining star, so they'd systematically minimized my achievements while amplifying her mediocre ones. Maya sat down on my couch, sensing that this conversation was going to require time and careful attention. "What are you thinking, Emma? I can see those wheels turning, and I know that look. You're not just planning to cut them off and move on with your life." She was right. Cutting contact would be the healthy choice, the mature response to toxic family dynamics. But it would also allow them to continue their delusion that Bella was some kind of influencer prodigy while I was just the bitter sister who couldn't handle her success. They'd rewrite history to make me the villain who abandoned the family out of jealousy, and Bella would milk that narrative for sympathy content across all her social media platforms. "Bella's entire career is built on smoke and mirrors," I said, settling into the chair across from Maya. 50,000 followers sounds impressive to people who don't understand social media metrics, but her engagement rates are terrible. Most of her likes come from bot accounts, her comments are generic and repetitive, and her brand partnerships are with bottom-tier companies that pay in free products rather than actual money. Maya nodded slowly. But your parents don't know any of that. They have no idea. They see the follower count and the free makeup packages and assume she's building some kind of empire. Meanwhile, I'm working with algorithms that could optimize her content performance by 300% if applied correctly. I paused, feeling the pieces of my plan beginning to align. What they don't realize is that social media success isn't just about being pretty and posting regularly. It's about understanding data patterns, audience psychology, and engagement optimization. The irony was delicious in its completeness. My parents had dismissed my data analytics career as boring computer work, while celebrating Bella's Instagram presence as creative entrepreneurship. They had no idea that her success depended entirely on the same technical principles they found so unimpressive when I demonstrated them in different contexts. Every viral post, every trending hashtag, every successful influencer campaign was built on data analysis and algorithmic understanding. You're going to destroy her online presence, Maya said, and it wasn't a question. I'm going to do something much more elegant than that. I pulled out my laptop and opened several browser tabs, muscle memory guiding me through platforms and dashboards I navigated daily for work. Destroying someone's social media presence is easy but temporary. Anyone can report accounts or generate negative attention. What I'm going to do is expose the artificial foundation her entire image is built on, and then replace it with something real. Maya leaned forward, intrigued, despite herself. Meaning what exactly? I turned my laptop screen toward her, showing analytics dashboards that tracked engagement patterns across multiple social media platforms. The data told a story that anyone with basic digital marketing knowledge could interpret, but which remained invisible to people like my parents, who only looked at surface-level metrics. Look at Bella's posting history over the past 6 months, I said, pointing to graphs that showed engagement patterns over time. Her follower growth comes in suspicious jumps that coincide with specific hashtags and posting times. That's not organic growth, that's either purchased followers or coordinated bot activity. Maya studied the data, her marketing background, allowing her to quickly grasp the implications. Her engagement rate is dropping even as her follower count increases. That's a classic sign of artificial inflation. Exactly. And look at the sentiment analysis of her comments. I switched to another dashboard that parsed the emotional content of social media interactions. 90% of her comments are variations of gorgeouses and fire emojis with no substantive engagement about her actual content. Real influencers generate discussions, questions, and meaningful interactions with their audience. The data painted a clear picture of an influencer career built on purchased metrics rather than genuine audience connection. Bella had been buying her way to the appearance of success, probably without even understanding that she was undermining the foundation of any real influence she might have developed organically. It was the digital equivalent of being a trust fund kid who thought inherited money proved personal achievement. But here's the really interesting part, I continued, switching to competitor analysis tools. There are at least a dozen other lifestyle influencers in the Phoenix area with smaller follower counts but significantly higher engagement rates and actual brand partnerships that pay real money. Bella isn't even close to being a top-tier influencer in her own geographic market. Maya absorbed this information with growing understanding. So when you say you're going to replace her artificial foundation with something real, I'm going to become the influencer she only pretends to be. The plan was crystallizing as I spoke, each element building logically on the last. I have better analytical skills, deeper understanding of content optimization, and authentic expertise that audiences actually value. Plus I have something Bella lacks, the ability to create genuinely helpful content instead of just pretty pictures. The beauty of this approach was its elegance. I wouldn't be attacking Bella directly or trying to tear down what she'd built. Instead, I'd be demonstrating what real influencer success looked like when combined with actual expertise and strategic thinking. My parents valued social media success. I'd show them what that looked like when executed by someone who understood the underlying mechanics. Maya was quiet for several minutes, processing the implications of what I was proposing. Emma, this is brilliant, but it's also incredibly risky. If you're going to outperform Bella in her own space, you need to be absolutely certain you can deliver on that promise. I've been analyzing social media trends and optimizing content performance for 3 years, I reminded her. Every campaign I've worked on has exceeded client expectations because I understand audience psychology and algorithmic preferences. The only difference between my professional work and personal content creation is the focus and branding. But Maya raised a valid concern. Professional success in digital marketing didn't automatically translate to personal social media influence. Building a following required consistency, authenticity, and the kind of personal brand development that I'd never attempted in my own name. It also required putting myself in front of a camera regularly, something that made me deeply uncomfortable after years of being told I wasn't naturally photogenic like Bella. What kind of content are you thinking? Maya asked, her tone shifting from concern to curiosity. Lifestyle content like Bella's wouldn't suit your personality. Data-driven lifestyle optimization, I said, the concept forming even as I spoke, content that actually helps people improve their lives using analytical thinking and strategic planning. Personal finance optimization, career development strategies, productivity systems, relationship advice based on psychological research rather than pop culture myths. The more I thought about it, the more perfect this positioning became. There was a massive audience of ambitious young professionals who wanted practical advice for advancing their careers and optimizing their personal lives. Most lifestyle influencers offered inspiration and aspiration, but very little actionable guidance. I could fill that gap while demonstrating the kind of analytical thinking that had always been my strength. Think about how many people are struggling with the same issues I've faced, I continued, excitement building as the vision became clearer. Undervaluation at work, toxic family dynamics, imposter syndrome, financial planning, career transitions. I could create content that actually helps people solve these problems instead of just looking pretty while pretending everything is perfect. Maya's expression shifted from skepticism to genuine enthusiasm. That's actually genius, Emma. You'd be entering a market space that's underserved while leveraging skills that differentiate you from typical influencer content. The competitive advantage was significant. Most lifestyle influencers relied on aspirational content that made audiences feel inadequate while offering no practical solutions. I could create content that empowered people with actual tools and strategies while building a personal brand around intelligence and authenticity rather than surface-level aesthetics. But the real genius is in the timing, I added, opening another browser tab to show trending hashtags and content themes. There's a growing backlash against perfect lifestyle content. Audiences are craving authenticity and practical value. The influencers who are gaining the most traction right now are the ones offering genuine expertise rather than just pretty pictures. Maya nodded slowly, her marketing mind obviously working through the strategic implications. And when your parents see you building a following based on actual expertise, while Bella's engagement continues to decline, they'll have to confront the fact that they've been measuring success using completely meaningless metrics. The satisfaction of that realization was almost overwhelming. When brands start paying me real money for partnerships, while Bella's still getting free lip gloss in exchange for posts, the financial reality will be impossible to ignore. But beyond the family dynamics, this plan offered something I'd been craving for years, the opportunity to build something meaningful that was entirely my own creation. Working for other people's marketing campaigns had been financially necessary but creatively limiting. Building my own personal brand would allow me to combine my analytical skills with my desire to help people while creating the kind of financial independence that would free me from family expectations forever. How long do you think it would take to build a significant following? Maya asked, her question indicating that she was taking this possibility seriously rather than just humoring my post-party frustration. With the right strategy and consistent execution, 6 months to reach meaningful engagement levels, 12 months to achieve real influence and monetization opportunities. I'd seen enough successful influencer campaigns to understand the typical growth trajectories, and my analytical background would allow me to optimize that process significantly. Maya was quiet for another long moment, and I could see her weighing the practical challenges against the potential benefits. You know I'll help however I can, but Emma, you need to be prepared for how your family is going to react to this. They're not going to sit quietly while you outshine their golden child. She was absolutely right. My parents had invested too much emotional capital in Bella's success to accept evidence that their evaluation criteria had been flawed. They'd probably interpret my social media success as copying Bella or trying to ride her coattails rather than recognizing it as superior execution of the same basic concept. Let them react however they want, I said, and I meant it. I'm done trying to manage their emotions or protect their delusions. If they can't handle seeing me succeed using the same metrics they celebrate when applied to Bella, that says everything about their priorities and nothing about my worth. The conversation continued past midnight, with Maya and I brainstorming content ideas, discussing posting schedules, and planning the technical setup I'd need to begin creating professional quality content. By the time she left my apartment, we'd outlined a comprehensive strategy that would launch my personal brand while systematically demonstrating every advantage I had over Bella's amateur approach. As I prepared for bed that night, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: genuine excitement about my future prospects combined with complete indifference to my family's approval. The humiliation at Bella's party had been the catalyst I needed to stop seeking validation from people who were constitutionally incapable of recognizing my value. Tomorrow, I would begin building something that would make their dismissal irrelevant while proving to myself that I had the strength to succeed entirely on my own terms. The transformation wasn't just beginning, it was already fundamentally complete in my mind. Everything else was just execution. Part 3. The Audience Bridge. The Monday morning following Bella's party, I sat in my cubicle at the marketing firm staring at spreadsheets that suddenly felt trivial compared to the personal project brewing in my mind. My coworkers chatted about their weekend activities, complaining about family gatherings and social obligations with the casual annoyance of people who took basic respect for granted. I envied their ability to treat family dysfunction as minor irritation rather than systematic degradation. During my lunch break, I walked to a nearby coffee shop that offered quiet corners and reliable Wi-Fi, carrying my laptop and a notebook filled with content ideas I'd brainstormed since my conversation with Maya. The plan that had seemed bold and theoretical at midnight now required practical execution, starting with the unglamorous work of audience research and content planning. I opened a fresh browser session and began analyzing successful influencers who occupied the space I wanted to enter. Not lifestyle influencers like Bella, but professionals who had built audiences around expertise and practical advice. The pattern that emerged was encouraging. Authenticity and useful content consistently outperformed polish and aesthetics when targeting ambitious young professionals. Dr. Amanda Foster had been right about the market opportunity in independent consulting, but she hadn't anticipated how social media could amplify that opportunity exponentially. Instead of building a traditional consulting practice that required networking and referrals, I could create a personal brand that attracted clients through valuable content and demonstrated expertise. The target audience crystallized as I researched college-educated professionals aged 22 to 35 who felt stuck in their careers, undervalued by their families, or confused about how to translate their education into meaningful success. These were people dealing with imposter syndrome, workplace politics, financial planning challenges, and relationship dynamics similar to what I'd experienced. Most importantly, this audience had disposable income and willingness to pay for solutions to their problems. Unlike Bella's followers who wanted entertainment and inspiration, my potential audience would value actionable advice and strategic guidance. That meant higher engagement rates, better monetization opportunities, and the kind of authentic influence that created lasting impact rather than fleeting attention. I spent the afternoon drafting content pillars that would structure my personal brand career optimization strategies, financial planning for young professionals, family relationship boundary productivity systems, and personal development frameworks based on psychological research rather than motivational platitudes. Each pillar offered opportunities for both free content that would build my audience and premium offerings that would generate revenue. The technical setup required more planning than I'd initially anticipated. Professional quality content demanded better equipment than my phone camera, lighting that would work in my small apartment, and editing software that could produce polished videos without requiring a massive time investment. Maya had offered to help with the marketing and promotional aspects, but the content creation responsibility was entirely mine. That evening, I visited a camera store in Central Phoenix to research equipment options within my limited budget. The salesperson, a recent college graduate named Marcus, who recognized my situation immediately, spent nearly an hour explaining how to achieve professional results with mid-range equipment and strategic lighting choices. Most people think they need thousands of dollars in gear to create good content, Marcus explained while demonstrating different camera settings. But honestly, lighting matters more than camera quality, and editing technique matters more than either. The influencers who blow their budget on expensive equipment usually produce worse content than people who understand the fundamentals. His advice proved invaluable, and I left the store with a camera setup that would produce high-quality content without destroying my savings account. The investment felt significant but necessary, like purchasing tools for a trade I was determined to master. Over the following week, I transformed my apartment into a content creation space. The living room became a filming area with strategic lighting placement and background options that looked professional without revealing my modest living situation. I practiced speaking to the camera until it felt natural, overcoming years of conditioning that told me I wasn't naturally photogenic or charismatic enough for video content. The first content pieces focused on workplace optimization strategies, drawing from situations I'd experienced personally, while offering research-backed solutions that viewers could implement immediately. Instead of generic advice about believing in yourself, I provided specific frameworks for documenting achievements, negotiating salary increases, and positioning yourself for promotions. Maya reviewed my initial content drafts with the brutal honesty of someone who understood both marketing strategy and my personal psychology. "The information is excellent, but you're holding back emotionally," she observed after watching my practice videos. "You sound like you're giving a business presentation instead of sharing expertise that could genuinely help people." She was right. My content was informative, but lacked the personal connection that transformed helpful information into compelling content. I needed to be vulnerable about my own struggles without turning my platform into a therapy session, sharing enough personal experience to create relatability while maintaining focus on actionable solutions. The breakthrough came when I recorded a video about setting boundaries with family members who don't respect your achievements. Instead of speaking in abstract terms about toxic relationships, I shared specific examples from my own experience without naming names or providing identifying details. The content became immediately more engaging while offering concrete strategies that viewers could adapt to their own situations. "That's it," Maya said after reviewing the revised version. "That's the voice that's going to build a real following. You're not just sharing information, you're sharing wisdom earned through actual experience." The validation felt different from anything I'd experienced in my family relationships. Maya's approval was based on objective assessment of my skills and potential rather than comparison to someone else's achievements. She saw value in my perspective because it offered genuine utility, not because it reflected well on her own status. I spent the weekend creating a content calendar that would launch my personal brand strategically. 3 posts per week across multiple platforms, with longer form content on weekends and quick tips during weekdays. Each piece would demonstrate analytical thinking while providing immediate value to viewers dealing with similar challenges. The username selection required careful consideration. I wanted something that clearly positioned me as a strategic thinker without being overly corporate or impersonal. After testing various options with Maya, I settled on something that reflected both my analytical background and practical focus, creating immediate differentiation from lifestyle influencers who emphasized aesthetics over utility. My bio positioning became another strategic decision that would determine how potential followers perceived my content. Instead of generic language about lifestyle optimization, I specifically targeted ambitious professionals seeking data-driven strategies for career advancement and personal development. The specificity would limit my potential audience size, but dramatically increase engagement quality and monetization potential. The first week of content creation felt like learning a new language that combined my existing analytical skills with communication techniques I'd never practiced. Each video required multiple takes to achieve the right balance of professionalism and authenticity, and editing consumed far more time than I'd anticipated. But the process was also energizing in ways I hadn't expected. Creating content that reflected my actual expertise and perspective felt like finally using my voice after years of being silenced or minimized. Every framework I shared, every strategy I explained, every piece of practical advice represented knowledge I'd developed through genuine experience rather than inherited privilege or superficial study. Maya documented my progress with the enthusiasm of someone who understood exactly how significant this transformation could become. You're not just building a social media presence, Emma. You're creating a platform that positions you as an expert in your field while generating income independent of traditional employment structures. The financial implications were indeed compelling. Successful influencers in my target market commanded significant fees for speaking engagements, consulting services, and educational products. Even modest success could replace my current salary while offering unlimited growth potential and complete creative control over my professional development. More importantly, this path offered something my family relationships had never provided: recognition and reward directly proportional to my effort and expertise. Social media success couldn't be dismissed as luck or favoritism when it was built on measurable engagement metrics and documented audience growth. As I prepared to publish my first official content piece, I thought about the contrast between this process and Bella's approach to influencer content. Where she focused on appearance and lifestyle aspiration, I was building a brand around capability and practical results. Where she sought validation through likes and comments, I was creating value that people would actively seek out and apply to their own lives. The difference wasn't just strategic, it was philosophical. Bella's content encouraged passive consumption and comparison, while mine would empower active improvement and strategic thinking. Her followers aspired to her lifestyle, while mine would develop skills that enhance their own lives regardless of their starting circumstances. That fundamental distinction would become increasingly important as my content began reaching audiences who valued substance over style. The people who gravitated toward analytical content and practical advice were inherently different from those who followed lifestyle influencers for entertainment and escapism. Part 4. The Foundation Story. The weeks following my decision to build a personal brand passed in a blur of early mornings and late nights as I balanced my day job with content creation and strategic planning. My manager at the marketing firm noticed my increased energy and focus, assuming I'd found new motivation in my existing role, rather than recognizing that I was channeling my ambition into an entirely different direction. Creating content consistently required discipline I'd developed through years of academic achievement and professional responsibility, but applying those skills to personal brand building felt revolutionary. Every video script, every social media post, every engagement with followers represented an investment in my own potential rather than someone else's success. The response to my initial content exceeded my most optimistic projections. Within 2 weeks, I'd gained more genuine followers than Bella had accumulated in her first 6 months of influencer activity. More importantly, the engagement quality was substantially higher, with viewers sharing detailed comments about how they'd implemented my strategies and what results they'd achieved. Dr. Amanda Foster discovered my content through LinkedIn and reached out with enthusiasm that surprised me. Emma, I've been following your recent posts about workplace optimization, and I'm impressed by both the quality of your analysis and your presentation skills. Have you considered expanding this into formal consulting services? Her message arrived at the perfect moment, as I'd been researching how successful content creators monetize their expertise beyond social media advertising. The transition from influencer to consultant was a natural evolution that would dramatically increase my earning potential while establishing credibility that went far beyond follower counts. I've been developing frameworks that could work well in corporate training environments, I replied, attaching several content outlines that demonstrated how my social media topics could be adapted for professional development workshops. Dr. Foster's response came within hours, proposing a partnership that would allow me to test my material with her existing client base while she provided guidance on consulting best practices and business development. The opportunity represented exactly the kind of validation I'd been seeking, recognition from an established professional who valued my expertise rather than my appearance or family connections. Our first collaboration involved creating a workshop for young professionals at a Phoenix tech company, focusing on career advancement strategies and workplace communication optimization. I spent 2 weeks preparing presentation materials that translated my social media content into corporate-appropriate frameworks while maintaining the practical focus that made my online content effective. The workshop exceeded both Dr. Foster's expectations and my own. Participants actively engaged with the material, asked detailed questions about implementation, and provided feedback that validated my approach while suggesting areas for expansion. Several attendees requested individual coaching sessions, creating immediate monetization opportunities that I hadn't anticipated. Emma, you have a natural talent for this work, Dr. Foster observed as we debriefed after the session. Your combination of analytical thinking and practical experience creates credibility that most consultants take years to develop. You should seriously consider making this transition sooner rather than later. The financial numbers supported her assessment. The single workshop paid more than I earned in a week at my marketing job, and the individual coaching sessions commanded hourly rates that exceeded my monthly salary. More importantly, the work felt meaningful in ways my corporate position never had, directly helping people solve problems similar to those I'd faced throughout my career. Maya documented my progress with growing excitement, recognizing that my transformation was exceeding even our most ambitious projections. 3 months ago, you were serving drinks at your sister's birthday party while she took credit for expertise she doesn't possess. Now you're building a business around actual knowledge that's changing people's lives. The contrast was indeed striking, but what impressed me most was how naturally the transition felt once I'd committed to authentic self-expression rather than seeking approval from people who weren't qualified to recognize my value. Every piece of content I created, every client interaction, every positive feedback message reinforced my decision to build something entirely my own. The growth trajectory accelerated as my content began attracting attention from other professionals in related fields. A financial planner in Scottsdale reached out about collaborating on content about budgeting for young professionals. a career coach in Tempe, proposed cross-promotion opportunities that would expand both our audiences. A productivity expert from San Diego suggested co-creating an online course that would combine our complementary expertise. These collaboration opportunities represented validation from peers who understood the difficulty of building expertise-based businesses in competitive markets. Unlike my family's dismissive attitude toward my analytical skills, these professionals recognized and wanted to partner with my demonstrated capabilities. The most significant breakthrough came when a major Phoenix corporation contacted me directly about providing employee development training for their junior management program. The HR director had discovered my content through employee recommendations and was impressed by the practical focus and measurable results my frameworks produced. We've tried several consulting firms, but their approaches tend to be either too theoretical or too generic, she explained during our initial phone consultation. Your content demonstrates exactly the kind of strategic thinking we want to develop in our emerging leaders. The corporate contract represented more than financial success, it was institutional recognition of my expertise at a level that Bella had never approached, despite her larger follower count. Organizations didn't hire influencers to train their employees unless those influencers possessed genuine knowledge and communication skills that translated into professional environments. Maya helped me prepare for the corporate presentation with the same attention to detail she applied to her own marketing campaigns. We practiced handling challenging questions, refined my materials for maximum impact, and developed follow-up strategies that would position me for additional opportunities within their organization. The presentation went flawlessly, with participants actively engaging throughout the session and providing feedback that validated every strategic decision I'd made about content focus and delivery style. The HR director scheduled follow-up sessions before I'd even left the building, and several participants requested my contact information for ongoing coaching relationships. This is what real influence looks like, I texted Maya from the corporate parking lot. Not follower counts or engagement metrics, but actual impact on people's professional development and career success. The financial results spoke for themselves. Within 4 months of launching my personal brand, I was earning more from consulting and coaching than my marketing job provided, with growth potential that far exceeded traditional employment limitations. More importantly, every dollar came from demonstrating genuine expertise rather than manipulating family relationships or exploiting artificial metrics. The contrast with Bella's influencer activities became increasingly apparent as I gained insight into real social media monetization. Her brand partnerships were limited to low-value products with minimal compensation, while my expertise-based content attracted corporate clients who paid substantial fees for measurable results. Dr. Foster provided additional perspective on the sustainability difference between our approaches. Lifestyle influencers depend on maintaining a specific image and staying relevant to constantly changing trends, she observed. Expertise-based consultants build value that compounds over time as their knowledge and reputation grow. The foundation I was building would become stronger with every successful client engagement, every positive outcome, and every professional referral. Unlike influencer content that required constant creation to maintain relevance, consulting expertise deepened through experience and created lasting relationships that generated ongoing opportunities. As I prepared to transition from part-time consulting to full-time entrepreneurship, I reflected on how dramatically my life had changed since that humiliating evening at Bella's party. The same analytical skills my family had dismissed as boring were now generating income, recognition, and professional satisfaction that exceeded anything I'd achieved in traditional employment. The transformation felt complete in ways that went beyond financial metrics or social media success. I'd discovered my authentic voice, built genuine expertise, and created value that people actively sought rather than passively consumed. Most importantly, I'd proven to myself that my worth wasn't dependent on family approval or artificial validation from people who didn't understand real achievement. The foundation was solid, the growth trajectory was accelerating, and the future possibilities seemed unlimited. Everything was in place for the next phase of my plan, which would demonstrate not just my individual success, but the vast difference between authentic expertise and manufactured influence. Part 5. The Catalyst Introduction. 6 months after launching my consulting practice, I was preparing for my largest corporate contract, yet when my mother called with news that would set the final act of my transformation in motion. Patricia Rodriguez rarely contacted me during business hours, so her afternoon call immediately captured my attention despite my busy schedule. "Emma, I have exciting news about Bella," she began without preamble, her voice carrying the same breathless enthusiasm she displayed during every update about my sister's modest influencer activities. "She's been selected for a major brand partnership with Luxe Beauty Products. They're featuring her in their new campaign for young professional women." I paused my preparation for the corporate presentation, recognizing that this development would require careful analysis of its implications for both Bella's career trajectory and my own strategic positioning. Luxe Beauty Products was a mid-tier cosmetics company that targeted exactly the demographic I'd been building my audience within, making this partnership particularly relevant to my interests. "That sounds wonderful for her," I replied neutrally while opening my laptop to research Luxe Beauty's recent marketing campaigns and partnership criteria. "What does the partnership involve?" My mother launched into detailed descriptions of photo shoots, product launches, and social media campaigns that would supposedly establish Bella as a major influencer in the Phoenix market. The excitement in her voice suggested she believed this opportunity represented validation of everything they'd invested in Bella's image and lifestyle brand. "The best part is that Luxe Beauty chose her specifically because of her authentic connection with young professional women," Patricia continued, apparently unaware of how that description related to my actual expertise and audience. "They said her content perfectly represents the successful, confident woman their products are designed for." The irony was overwhelming in its completeness. Luxe Beauty had selected Bella to represent professional women despite her having no professional experience or genuine connection to career advancement challenges. Meanwhile, I was actually building a business around helping professional women optimize their careers and personal development, but operating without the artificial follower metrics that impressed brands unfamiliar with engagement quality analysis. "When does the campaign launch?" I asked, already formulating how this development would factor into my long-term strategy for demonstrating the difference between authentic expertise and manufactured influence. "Next month. They're doing a whole series about work-life balance and career confidence that will feature Bella prominently. Your father and I are so proud of how she's built this incredible platform for herself." The conversation continued for several more minutes, with my mother providing details about campaign timelines, product launches, and promotional events that would supposedly establish Bella as a thought leader in professional development and lifestyle optimization. Every description highlighted the disconnect between Bella's actual qualifications and the expertise she was being paid to represent. After ending the call, I spent an hour researching Luxe Beauty's partnership history and campaign performance metrics. The data revealed exactly what I'd suspected: they prioritized follower counts and aesthetic appeal over engagement quality and audience authenticity when selecting influencer partners. Bella's metrics fit their superficial criteria perfectly. Her follower count had grown to nearly 80,000 through a combination of purchased accounts and engagement manipulation, creating the appearance of influence without the underlying substance that drove real purchasing decisions. Luxe Beauty's marketing team had apparently failed to analyze engagement quality or audience authenticity before making their selection. Maya arrived at my apartment that evening to find me surrounded by printouts and laptop screens displaying competitive analysis data and campaign performance projections. She immediately recognized the focused intensity that indicated I was developing a strategic response to new information. "What's got you in full analytical mode?" she asked, settling into the chair across from my work area. "You look like you're planning something significant." I explained the Lux Beauty partnership and its implications for both Bella's career trajectory and my own positioning within the same target market. Maya absorbed the information with growing understanding of why this development mattered beyond simple family dynamics. "So Bella is getting paid to give advice about professional success and work-life balance to exactly the audience you've been building through actual expertise," Maya summarized. "And the brand chose her based on follower metrics rather than relevant knowledge or authentic audience connection." Exactly. "And when the campaign launches, it's going to demonstrate everything wrong with how brands evaluate influencer partnerships." I switched between browser tabs showing engagement analysis and audience demographics. Bella's followers are primarily interested in lifestyle content and aesthetic inspiration. They're not seeking career advice or professional development strategies. Maya studied the data for several minutes before looking up with an expression that suggested she was beginning to understand the opportunity this situation presented. "Emma, this could be exactly what you need to demonstrate the difference between real influence and artificial metrics." She was absolutely correct. Lux Beauty's campaign would provide a perfect case study in how mismatched influencer partnerships failed to achieve marketing objectives while simultaneously creating opportunities for experts with authentic audience connections to demonstrate superior results. "I've been developing content around professional development and work-life optimization for months," I continued, pulling up my content calendar and engagement metrics. "My audience is actively seeking advice in these areas, and they're implementing my strategies with measurable results." The contrast would become apparent immediately when Bella's campaign launched. Her followers would engage politely with sponsored content about professional success while seeking actual advice from sources they trusted for career guidance. Meanwhile, my audience would continue growing through organic recommendations from people who had achieved real results using my frameworks. Maya recognized the strategic implications immediately. When Bella's campaign underperforms relative to her follower count, you'll have an opportunity to demonstrate how authentic expertise drives better marketing results than superficial metrics. The timing was particularly advantageous because I'd been planning to launch my own digital course focused on career advancement strategies for young professionals. Bella's campaign would create awareness around professional development topics within her audience, potentially driving traffic toward experts who could provide genuine value in those areas. But more importantly, I added, this partnership is going to expose the artificial foundation of Bella's entire influencer presence. Professional women can immediately recognize when someone lacks authentic experience in career development and workplace optimization. Maya nodded slowly, understanding that this situation offered opportunities that went far beyond simple competitive advantage. "Your parents are about to see their golden child get significant brand recognition followed by lackluster results, while you demonstrate superior performance with authentic expertise. The educational value would be significant for everyone involved." Part 6. The pattern establishment. The Lux Beauty campaign launched 3 weeks later with a social media blitz that my parents celebrated as proof of Bella's ascending influence in the professional development space. Patricia forwarded me every press release, social media post, and industry mention with commentary that revealed how completely they misunderstood both Bella's actual qualifications and the metrics that determined real marketing success. "Look at this feature in Phoenix Business Weekly," my mother texted, attaching a screenshot of a brief mention that listed Bella among local influencers partnering with major brands. "They're calling her an expert in work-life balance for professional women. We're so proud of how she's built this expertise." The disconnect between perception and reality had reached absurd proportions. Bella was being positioned as an authority on professional success despite having never held a traditional job, navigated workplace politics, or developed any of the skills her campaign content was supposed to promote. Meanwhile, I was actually helping professional women advance their careers through proven strategies, but operating without the artificial metrics that impressed people unfamiliar with engagement quality analysis. I attended the campaign launch event at a trendy Scottsdale hotel, partly from curiosity about how Bella would handle speaking about topics she'd never experienced, but mostly to observe the audience reaction and gather data about the campaign's likely performance trajectory. Maya accompanied me, providing moral support while documenting the evening's revelations about artificial influence versus authentic expertise. Bella looked stunning as always, wearing a designer outfit that perfectly matched Luxe Beauty's aesthetic branding while discussing work-life balance strategies she'd clearly memorized from other sources rather than developed through personal experience. Her presentation was polished but hollow, offering generic advice about confidence and self-care without any practical frameworks that attendees could implement in their actual professional situations. The audience consisted primarily of other influencers, brand representatives, and social media personalities rather than the professional women Bella was supposedly qualified to advise. Most attendees seemed more interested in networking opportunities and free products than in learning actionable career development strategies from someone with relevant expertise. She's essentially reading from a script about topics she's never navigated personally. Maya whispered as Bella concluded her presentation with inspirational platitudes about believing in yourself and pursuing your dreams. Anyone with actual professional experience can tell she's never dealt with workplace challenges or career advancement decisions. The question and answer session confirmed Maya's assessment. When attendees asked specific questions about salary negotiation, workplace conflict resolution, or career transition strategies, Bella provided vague responses that revealed her complete lack of relevant experience. She deflected detailed inquiries by encouraging questioners to believe in themselves and maintain positive attitudes, offering no concrete guidance for the challenges working professionals actually face. Brandon stood beside her throughout the evening, his presence apparently intended to lend credibility to her expertise in professional environments. But his own condescending attitude toward service workers and dismissive comments about people without college degrees undermined any authority he might have contributed to her positioning as someone who understood workplace dynamics. My parents beamed with pride as they worked the room, introducing themselves as Bella's supporters and bragging about her influence with young professional women. They seemed completely unaware that most attendees were fellow influencers rather than the target demographic Bella was supposed to represent, and they appeared oblivious to the hollow nature of her presentation content. Isn't it amazing how Bella has become such an expert in career development? Patricia gushed to anyone who would listen. She really understands what young professional women need to succeed in today's competitive environment. The irony was painful to witness. My mother was celebrating Bella's manufactured expertise in my actual area of competence while remaining blind to the artificial foundation underlying her daughter's supposed authority. Meanwhile, I was building genuine influence through demonstrated results and authentic audience connection, but operating without the superficial metrics that impressed people like my parents. The evening's most revealing moment came when a legitimate business executive approached Bella with questions about managing team dynamics and optimizing workplace communication. Bella's responses were so inadequate that the executive politely excused herself after a few minutes, clearly recognizing that she was speaking with someone who lacked relevant experience despite the impressive title and brand partnership. Maya and I left the event with comprehensive data about the campaign's fundamental misalignment between influencer qualifications and target audience needs. Bella's follower metrics had impressed Luxe Beauty's marketing team, but her content would fail to drive meaningful engagement from professional women seeking actual career guidance rather than lifestyle inspiration. This is going to be a fascinating case study in how artificial influence fails when tested against authentic expertise. Maya observed as we drove back toward downtown Phoenix. Bella is about to discover that professional women can immediately identify when someone lacks genuine experience in career development. The prediction proved accurate within days of the campaign launch. Bella's sponsored content about work-life balance and professional confidence generated significantly lower engagement rates than her typical lifestyle posts, and the comments revealed audience confusion about why they should take career advice from someone whose only professional experience involved social media content creation. More telling were the private messages I began receiving from people who had seen Bella's campaign but were seeking actual career guidance from someone with relevant expertise. My follower count and consultation requests increased substantially as professional women discovered my content through searches for authentic advice in the areas where Bella was claiming authority. I saw this influencer talking about workplace optimization, but her advice was completely generic. One message read, "Then I found your content and realized what actual professional development expertise looks like. Your frameworks have already helped me approach my next performance review more strategically." The organic growth accelerated as people shared my content with colleagues and friends who were dealing with similar career challenges. Unlike Bella's followers who engaged politely with sponsored content before moving on to entertainment, my audience actively implemented my strategies and reported measurable results that generated additional referrals. Dr. Amanda Foster noticed the increased attention around my consulting practice and suggested we collaborate on a comprehensive online course that would capitalize on the growing demand for authentic professional development guidance. "Emma, you're attracting exactly the audience that brands like Luxe Beauty want to reach, but through genuine expertise rather than manufactured influence." The course development process revealed how much my understanding of career optimization had deepened through months of helping real professionals navigate actual workplace challenges. Every module was based on strategies I'd tested with consulting clients, frameworks I'd refined through practical application, and solutions I'd developed for problems that Bella had never encountered in her sheltered existence. Meanwhile, Bella's campaign performance continued declining as professional women recognized the disconnect between her lifestyle content background and the career expertise she was claiming to possess. Luxe Beauty's social media metrics showed that her sponsored posts were generating significantly lower engagement and conversion rates than other influencers in their network with smaller but more authentic audiences. The contrast became even more apparent when I launched my own digital course on career advancement strategies. Within the first week, enrollments exceeded my most optimistic projections as professional women invested in guidance from someone who understood their challenges through direct experience rather than theoretical study. "Your course content is exactly what I needed to navigate my promotion discussions," one participant wrote in the course forum. "Finally, someone who understands the real politics and strategic thinking required for career advancement rather than just telling me to be confident and believe in myself." The testimonials and results stories began accumulating at a rate that surprised even Maya, who had helped develop the marketing strategy for the course launch. Unlike Bella's followers who engaged superficially with sponsored content, my audience was actively implementing strategies and sharing specific outcomes that validated every decision I'd made about positioning and content focus. "Emma, you're not just building a more successful business than Bella's influencer activities," Maya observed during one of our weekly progress meetings. "You're demonstrating what authentic expertise looks like when applied to the same target market that brands are trying to reach through superficial influencer partnerships." The financial results supported her assessment. My course revenue in the first month exceeded what Bella earned from her entire Luxe Beauty campaign, and the ongoing consultation requests suggested sustainable income growth that would far surpass typical influencer earning potential. More importantly, every dollar came from delivering genuine value to people who were achieving measurable improvements in their professional lives. The satisfaction of helping others succeed through proven strategies felt fundamentally different from the hollow validation Bella sought through likes and comments on sponsored content that provided no real benefit to her audience. The pattern was becoming clear to everyone except my parents, who remained fixated on Bella's brand partnerships and follower metrics while missing the fundamental differences in audience quality, engagement, authenticity, and sustainable income generation. Their celebration of Bella's manufactured influence contrasted sharply with their continued dismissal of my actual expertise and growing business success. Patricia still forwarded me articles mentioning Bella's influencer activities while rarely acknowledging the consulting clients, speaking engagements, and course enrollments that demonstrated my real impact in the professional development space. The selective attention revealed how invested they were in maintaining their narrative about which daughter represented success and achievement. But the market was providing clearer feedback than family approval ever could. Professional women consistently chose authentic expertise over manufactured influence when making decisions about whose guidance to follow and whose courses to purchase. The voting was happening with wallets and career outcomes rather than social media engagement metrics that could be artificially manipulated. As Bella's campaign performance continued disappointing Luxe Beauty's expectations while my business growth accelerated through organic recommendations, the stage was set for a confrontation that would make the differences between artificial influence and authentic expertise impossible for even my parents to ignore. Part 7. The Growth Through Fire. The transformation of my professional life accelerated exponentially as word spread through Phoenix's business community about the practical value of my consulting services and educational content. Corporate clients began requesting long-term partnerships rather than single workshop sessions, recognizing that my frameworks produced measurable improvements in employee performance and workplace satisfaction that justified substantial ongoing investments. The contrast with Bella's declining campaign performance became more pronounced each week as professional women discovered my content through searches for authentic career guidance rather than lifestyle inspiration. My consultation calendar filled months in advance while her sponsored posts generated increasingly lackluster engagement from followers who clearly recognized the disconnect between her lifestyle content background and the professional expertise she was claiming to represent. Maya documented the parallel trajectories with growing amazement at how quickly authentic expertise outperformed manufactured influence when tested in real market conditions. 3 months ago, brands were impressed by Bella's follower count and aesthetic appeal, she observed during one of our weekly strategy sessions. Now professional women are actively seeking alternatives because they can tell she lacks relevant experience. The validation came from multiple sources simultaneously. Dr. Amanda Foster's corporate clients specifically requested workshops led by me rather than more established consultants, citing the practical focus and immediate applicability of my frameworks. Phoenix Business Weekly featured my consulting practice in an article about emerging thought leaders in professional development, describing my approach as refreshingly authentic compared to typical industry experts who emphasized theory over practical implementation. Most significantly, several major corporations began approaching me directly about executive coaching relationships and strategic consulting projects that would establish my reputation at the highest levels of Arizona's business community. These opportunities represented recognition that went far beyond social media influence, positioning me as someone whose expertise commanded respect from decision makers who controlled substantial budgets and resources. The financial implications were transformative. Within 6 months of launching my consulting practice, I was earning more than my previous marketing salary every few weeks through a combination of corporate contracts, individual coaching relationships, and digital course sales. The income growth trajectory suggested unlimited potential as my reputation spread through professional networks that valued demonstrated results over superficial metrics. More importantly, every client engagement deepened my expertise and expanded my understanding of workplace dynamics, creating a compound effect where experience improved capability, which attracted better opportunities, which generated higher compensation. Unlike influencer activities that required constant content creation to maintain relevance, consulting expertise grew stronger with every successful project. Tyler Brooks entered my life during this period of accelerated growth, attending one of my workshops about data-driven career optimization strategies at a Phoenix tech company where he worked as a senior data scientist. His thoughtful questions during the session and insightful follow-up conversation revealed someone who understood both analytical thinking and professional development challenges from personal experience rather than theoretical study. Your frameworks are the first career advice I've encountered that treats professional advancement like a strategic problem rather than a confidence issue, he said after the workshop concluded. Most career coaches focus on mindset and motivation, but you're providing actual tools for analyzing opportunities and optimizing decision making. Tyler's perspective validated my positioning within the professional development space while offering opportunities for collaboration that could expand my impact significantly. His background in data science complemented my analytical approach to career optimization, and his experience navigating technical career paths provided insights that enhanced my ability to serve clients in similar fields. Our professional relationship evolved naturally into personal connection as we discovered shared values around authentic achievement, strategic thinking, and building careers based on genuine expertise rather than networking manipulation or artificial influence. Tyler understood the satisfaction of solving complex problems through rigorous analysis, and he appreciated my journey from family dismissal to business success through demonstrated competence. "You've built something remarkable here, Emma," he said during one of our dinner conversations about entrepreneurship and professional autonomy. "Most people either settle for traditional employment limitations or chase superficial success metrics that don't create lasting value. You've found a third path that maximizes both financial potential and personal satisfaction." The relationship provided emotional support that I hadn't realized I needed during the intensive process of building a business while maintaining distance from family dynamics that had previously defined my self-worth. Tyler's genuine admiration for my achievements felt fundamentally different from the conditional approval my parents offered to Bella based on superficial metrics rather than actual accomplishments. Meanwhile, Bella's influencer activities continued struggling as brands began recognizing that follower counts didn't translate into meaningful engagement or purchasing behavior when the influencer lacked authentic connection to their target audience. Luxe Beauty quietly ended their partnership early when campaign performance failed to meet projections, though my parents remained unaware of this development due to Bella's careful management of information about her professional setbacks. The contrast became more apparent when major corporations began inviting me to speak at industry conferences about professional development and workplace optimization. These speaking opportunities represented recognition from peers who understood the difficulty of building expertise-based businesses, and they positioned me alongside established thought leaders in the professional development space. Emma Rodriguez has quickly established herself as one of the most practical voices in career optimization, introduced the conference organizer at a major Phoenix business summit. Her frameworks produce measurable results for both individual professionals and corporate teams, making her insights valuable for anyone seeking strategic approaches to workplace success. The audience response validated every decision I'd made about content focus and positioning strategy. Professional women actively engaged with my material, asked detailed implementation questions, and provided contact information for follow-up consulting discussions. Unlike Bella's audiences who consumed content passively, my audiences sought practical tools they could apply immediately to advance their careers. Dr. Foster observed the conference presentation with obvious pride in our collaboration and growing excitement about expanded partnership opportunities. "Emma, you're not just building a successful consulting practice, you're establishing thought leadership that will create opportunities we haven't even considered yet." Her prediction proved accurate when several major consulting firms approached me about acquisition discussions or partnership arrangements that would scale my frameworks nationally while maintaining my creative control over content and delivery methods. These opportunities represented validation at the highest levels of the professional development industry. The financial terms being discussed exceeded my most ambitious projections for independent consulting success, but more importantly, they represented recognition that my expertise had genuine market value independent of family approval or artificial social media metrics. The business I'd built through authentic knowledge and proven results was attracting interest from organizations that specialized in identifying scalable expertise. Tyler provided valuable perspective on these opportunities, helping me evaluate options that would maximize long-term growth potential while preserving the authentic approach that differentiated my work from typical corporate consulting services. His analytical background proved invaluable for assessing partnership structures and growth strategies that aligned with my professional values. The key is maintaining the authenticity that made your initial success possible while expanding your impact beyond what individual consulting can achieve, he advised during our analysis of various partnership proposals. You've proven that genuine expertise outperforms artificial influence in this market. Now you need to scale that advantage. The scaling process required careful consideration of how to maintain quality and authenticity while reaching larger audiences through expanded delivery methods. Corporate partnerships offered efficient distribution but risked diluting the personal connection that made my content effective. Digital courses provided scalability but required significant time investment in development and maintenance. Maya helped navigate these strategic decisions with her marketing expertise and deep understanding of my long-term objectives. Emma, you've built something that brands like Luxe Beauty are desperately trying to reach through influencer partnerships, she observed. Professional women who make actual purchasing decisions and career advancement choices based on expert guidance rather than lifestyle inspiration. The irony was perfect in its completeness. Bella had been paid to represent the exact audience I was genuinely serving, but her lack of relevant experience had prevented meaningful connection while my authentic expertise was generating both audience growth and substantial revenue from the same demographic. As my business success became increasingly visible through speaking engagements, media features, and client testimonials, my parents began showing renewed interest in my activities after months of focusing exclusively on Bella's influencer career. Patricia started asking questions about my consulting work with the same enthusiasm she'd previously reserved for Bella's brand partnerships. Emma, Mrs. Santos mentioned that you spoke at some big business conference, my mother said during one of her increasingly frequent phone calls. She said people were very impressed with your presentation. What exactly do you do at these events? The questions revealed how completely they'd missed the development of my expertise and business success while celebrating Bella's superficial achievements. They were beginning to recognize that my professional activities commanded respect in circles they found impressive, but they still didn't understand the fundamental differences between authentic expertise and manufactured influence. The stage was set for a confrontation that would make those differences impossible to ignore even for parents who had invested years in maintaining their preferred narrative about which daughter represented genuine success and achievement. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.